In the heart of the untamed jungle, where every day is a test of survival, a moment of pure innocence can quickly turn into a nightmare. Today we bring you a story that begins with a playful young gorilla and a fleeting butterfly, but quickly escalates into a terrifying struggle for life. A mother's roar of fury, a monstrous anaconda's grip, and two brave men who had to make an impossible choice. But the most shocking moment was yet to come. A moment of trust between species, a look of understanding that defied all logic, and a rescue that would become a legend. Before we dive into this incredible journey, we invite you to become a part of our community. Please tell us in the comments below, where are you watching from? Your responses help us connect a global family of nature enthusiasts. And if you believe in the power of these extraordinary stories, please consider subscribing to our channel, Wild Echo Untold, and liking this video. Your support is the echo that helps us share these vital tales. The story begins in a dense, humid corner of the jungle, a natural playground for a young gorilla. Full of life and boundless energy, the cub was doing what young animals do best, exploring the world. Its senses were alive to the vibrant sounds of the jungle, the rustle of leaves, and the distant calls of other animals. The cub's attention, however, was fixated on a beautiful, iridescent butterfly flitting through the air. Chasing the butterfly in a moment of pure, innocent joy, the young gorilla wandered out of the dense foliage and onto an old, forgotten asphalt road, a relic of a human world long reclaimed by nature. It was a momentary lapse in an otherwise perfectly protected life, and it would nearly cost the young gorilla everything. The road, quiet and deceptively safe, was anything but.
The danger was not in the trees or the shadows, but right in front of him, a silent predator waiting on the sun-baked asphalt. A massive anaconda, its scales a mosaic of browns and greens, lay perfectly camouflaged against the dark, cracked surface of the old road. Its body, thick and powerful as a tree trunk, was barely visible. As the young gorilla ventured closer, captivated by the butterfly, the snake's head, an arrow of muscle and instinct, struck with deadly precision. It was an explosion of motion. Before the gorilla could even release a true cry, the anaconda's immense coils had begun to wrap around its small, fragile body, each twist and squeeze a powerful vice tightening around its chest. The playful chase was over. The game had become a desperate fight for survival, a horrifying battle for breath. The young gorilla's panicked cries of distress, sharp and piercing, cut through the humid air of the jungle, a primal call for help that would be answered by the only one who could hear it. From deep within the forest, the mother gorilla, an imposing and powerful matriarch of her troop, heard the terrified screams of her child. She rushed to the scene with a speed that defied her immense size, arriving in a torrent of pure, unbridled fury and terror. Her chest was a drum of thunder, her guttural roars shaking the very ground. Her primal instincts took over, and she immediately began to attack the snake, pounding the asphalt with her fists and tearing at the coils with her powerful hands. She pulled with all her strength, her muscles straining, but the anaconda's grip was a force of nature, unyielding and unbreakable. The mother's desperate attempts were in vain. She could not free her child. The sight was horrifying. A mother's helpless struggle against a silent, deadly predator, the life of her child fading away with every passing second. It was at this moment of intense struggle and profound despair that the sudden sound of an approaching engine broke the jungle's natural soundtrack. A dusty Jeep, its tires crunching on the asphalt, arrived carrying two park rangers, Mark and David. Their mission was to patrol the area and observe the wildlife, but they stumbled upon a scene of pure, heart-stopping horror. The anaconda, the struggling cub, and the enraged mother gorilla created a tableau of life and death. David, his face a mask of shock and his heart pounding with a natural human instinct to help, immediately wanted to rush in. "We have to do something," he yelled, his voice a frantic whisper. But Mark, the senior ranger with years of experience, held him back, a hand gripping his shoulder. "No, David, "Don't you dare," he said, his voice firm and authoritative, his eyes fixed on the raging mother. Mark knew that their sudden, aggressive presence would be seen as an additional threat by the terrified mother gorilla. In her state of primal rage, she would not distinguish between a deadly sneak and two well-meaning humans. A wrong move could result in a disaster, with the mother gorilla attacking them and both her and the cub being lost. They had to act with precision and caution, or not at all.
From the safety of their jeep, the rangers watched, their hearts sinking with every passing second. The young gorilla's struggles grew weaker and weaker, its once piercing cries reduced to a faint, desperate whisper. Mark and David knew time was running out. They had to act, and they had to do it now, before the anaconda's embrace became a final, fatal squeeze. They couldn't just stand by and watch. But their intervention had to be more than just a rescue. It had to be a meticulously strategic, calculated risk. They quickly grabbed a couple of long, sturdy poles from their jeep, heavy tools they used for minor tasks like clearing fallen branches. These would be their only defense against the immense power of the anaconda and the unpredictable, primal rage of the mother gorilla. With a precise plan in mind, Mark and David began their dangerous dance. They moved out from behind the jeep, using its bulk as a shield, approaching the scene with slow, deliberate steps. They used the long poles to poke and prod the anaconda, aiming for its head and tail to distract it from its prey. Their movements were a synchronized effort, a tense ballet of courage and caution to dislodge the snake's unyielding grip. The mother gorilla, startled by the new presence, momentarily paused her attacks on the anaconda, her focus shifting to the rangers. Her gaze was a mixture of raw suspicion and desperate confusion, a wild animal trying to decipher this new threat. But the rangers' singular goal was not to harm the snake, but to break its hold on the cub. As they worked the poles, they managed to pry a few of the massive coils loose, enough to give the young gorilla a moment of relief. The anaconda, sensing a lost battle and no longer in full control of its prey, finally released its grip with a furious hiss. It slithered away into the jungle, disappearing into the undergrowth as quickly and silently as it had appeared. The victory was short-lived, however, as the young gorilla lay motionless and limp on the asphalt. The moment the anaconda was gone, the quiet returned, broken only by the mother gorilla's hurried footsteps. She rushed to her child, her massive form trembling with a mixture of hope and fear. She nudged it gently with her nose, trying to elicit a response. She placed a large hand on its tiny chest, waiting for a beat, a sign of life, but the cub did not stir. To her, it was a brutal confirmation of her worst fear. Her baby was gone. She began to mourn, a low, guttural sound of immense grief echoing through the quiet jungle. It wasn't a roar of rage, but a deep, mournful sob that spoke of unimaginable loss. She had fought with all her strength, but in the end, it wasn't enough.
Mark, watching the mother's profound grief, knew he had to try one last thing. He couldn't give up. A voice of reason, born from years of working in the wild, screamed at him to stay back. But a deeper, more primal instinct, a shared humanity, refused to let him abandon hope. He took a deep, steadying breath, grabbed a small medical kit from the jeep, and began to approach the mother gorilla. Every step was deliberate, every motion slow and without aggression. His body language was a silent plea, a profound request for trust. He knew this was the most dangerous part of the entire ordeal. The mother gorilla was in a state of raw, profound grief, and she could lash out with a force that could kill a man instantly. But he gambled on one universal truth that transcended species: a mother's love. In a moment that would define the entire story, the mother gorilla did something astonishing. Instead of erupting in rage or swiping at him with a powerful hand, she simply watched Mark approach. Her gaze was not one of blind fury, but of a heartbreaking, weary resignation. Her eyes, filled with a primal sorrow, held a flicker of something more, a shared understanding, a desperate, final plea. She understood. Without making a sound, she gently nudged her lifeless child forward,
as if offering it to Mark, granting him a brief and fragile window of access. It was an act of pure, desperate trust. A mother's last and most sacred hope. Mark, with his heart pounding in his throat, took this as his cue. He knelt down beside the cub, his hand steady despite the immense pressure and the looming presence of the grieving mother. The jungle, for that moment, seemed to hold its breath. Using his knowledge from his medical training, Mark began to perform chest compressions on the young gorilla. He then applied a cold pack, hoping to shock the cub's fragile system back to life. Time seemed to stop, stretching into a slow-motion eternity. Every second was a universe of hope and despair. Mark worked, his focus absolute, aware only of the small, still body beneath his hands. And then, a miracle. The young gorilla coughed, a small, weak, yet unmistakable gasp for air. Its tiny chest began to rise and fall, a fragile rhythm of life returning. The cub was alive. Mark and David, who had been watching in stunned, silent prayer, let out a collective, tearful sigh of relief. The jungle, once again, was filled with a powerful sound, the soft, renewed breath of a life saved.
The mother gorilla, witnessing the miracle, gently scooped up her baby. The cub, still weak, clung to her side, a beautiful, powerful sign of life. For a brief, magical moment, the mother gorilla looked directly into the eyes of Mark and David. This was not a look of wild fury or of indifference. It was a gaze of profound acknowledgement and understanding. It was a silent thank you that transcended the barrier of species, a powerful moment of connection between a mother, her child, and the two men who risked everything. The look lingered for a moment, an eternal memory etched in the minds of the two rangers. Then, with her baby safe in her arms, she disappeared back into the protective embrace of the jungle. This story is more than just a tale of a jungle rescue. It is a powerful reminder of the universal bond between a mother and her child. It teaches us that empathy, courage, and a willingness to help are not exclusively human traits. They are universal languages spoken by all creatures, a testament to the idea that love is the strongest force in the world. If this incredible story touched your heart, please subscribe to Wild Echo Untold and join our community. Your support is what allows us to keep telling these powerful and important stories. Also, we'd love to know what you thought of today's story. Leave a comment below and tell us which part of this amazing journey touched you the most.